family. She worked for his brother. She worked for Governor Cuomo.
So there's a connection there. That's a clear conflict of interest.
Yep. And it was never disclosed until it had to be disclosed.
When this whole parameters, when all this was going on, the Chris Cuomo being let go and some of the other producers being let go, and I said, how long before Jeff Zucker has to either leave or get fired? And I said that when Discovery signs on the dotted line over at Warner, and they take over, and the head of Discovery said there was going to be some massive changes, especially at CNN. I was expecting that Zucker was going to go then. Well, we found out this week Jeff has stepped away from his post as head of CNN due to a situation that, how can we put this in there? I said this once, Al Capone got caught on, as they say, tax evasion. Zucker leaves because he had a relationship with somebody that basically he should have reported and didn't report. But before you get into this, before you say into this anymore, there's a lot more to this story. Because basically, if that was the major situation, the major crux of the whole situation, that would be too easy. Like Al Capone and tax evasion. I'm going to read a little bit of this off of Fox. Jeff Zucker's sudden departure from CNN has created an uneasy work environment, rife with tension and questions about the network's future. But two of his most loyal employees have defended him and praised him, now former boss, until the bitter end. Loyalist Allison Cameretta and Brian Stelter have both spoken out about CNN's honcho leaving the network after failing to disclose a consensual relationship with network executive Allison Goist. Stelter referred himself to Zucker's resignation as a seismic moment because he is a singular figure in American media. No, he isn't really. You have to remember, Zucker was a guy who came over from NBC and basically was doing a lot of reality shows. And yes, that's right. He was friends with Trump. Him and Trump were buddy at one point. That says a lot. Stelter has made headlines of his own on Wednesday when an insider called for his firing after he declined to expose Zucker's romantic relationship that has been dubbed an open secret by critics, while Camerata made news by fawning over how her former boss during her daytime news show. Now, see, here's the thing about the situation. And let's go with Allison Goist. Now, according to Zucker, they have been friends, intimate. Well, they've probably been intimate more recently, but they've been friends for pretty much over 20 years. Now, here's the thing, and if you saw the thumbnail, and this is where we're going to get to this. In 2012, Allison Goist went to go work for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo as a communications director. Then later, she leaves that position and goes to work for CNN under Zucker. And then this whole Chris Cuomo situation and all that. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? And most people will tell you this. Is the collusion. And that's what it looks like on paper. Collusion of certain Democrats with CNN.
So, CNN boss Jeff Zucker and Goist had an affair they never disclosed until the investigation into Chris. Now Zucker is resigning. After 9 years on the job, that calls into question the new direction of CNN and also who knew about this affair. It's been reported that CNN staff knew, but they feared reprisal, obviously the CEO if they said anything. And it also shows some hypocrisy here because Zucker and Goist initially supported Chris Cuomo, the network star, and the fact that Gaulis knew the family. She worked for his brother. She worked for Governor Cuomo.
So there's a connection there. That's a clear conflict of interest.
Yep. And it was never disclosed until it had to be disclosed.
Good Lord.
She keeps her job. Zucker's out.
What a mess. What an absolute
I would say
mess.
so.
Extraordinary stuff.
You may say to yourself, well, that's crazy on that. Think about it for a minute. Think about how much did Chris Cuomo get away with? How much did Andrew Cuomo get away with on the CNN network? Think about that for a minute. Go back, look at the videos, look at the original posts. You could see it from CNN itself. Katie Couric had said that they've worked, that this was going on, in one of Katie Couric's books, that she talked about this in 2013. That they were together. So if you're saying, well, they've been together, could have been together for 20 years. Yeah, it was already being written in books. Most of these people know this was going on. This was constantly going on in the CNN network. This is why when you saw the Veritas videos that came out of the pedos, the people that just literally were total garbage that worked for this network. And now that they've left it, and one of them, I think, has been arrested, I think at one point now, at this point, investigations that are going on. There are now investigations going on over at Warner Media that employees are even asking questions about this. Jason Killard, who's the CEO of Warner Media, gets grilled by them. This is off of a little piece on here from the Wall Street Journal. Warner Media executive Jason Killard was subject to intense criticism during a meeting with CNN employees Wednesday evening, where he was grilled over his decision that CNN's president Jeff Zucker should step down after Mr. Killard learned the network boss had a romantic relationship with the marketing chief. During the hour-long meeting with Mr. Killard, CNN anchors and employees expressed frustration that Zucker didn't get a second chance after disclosing his relationship with Ms. Gauss, and asked Mr. Killard why Mr. Zucker was replaced abruptly. He declined to answer the questions about the timeline of Mr. Zucker's departure. I thought he said a final process with a appropriate sense of urgency. See, that tells you there's a lot more toward this situation. And I think this is going to come down to the point where this is going to be talked by the board of investors and the incoming president of Discovery. Because this is coming close. I think they're going to close out Discovery on the takeover from them. And the thing about it is, this is something that is still going to echo for the next several months. And before, as I put in, if you haven't watched the Memo with the show breaking video, who's next? A lot of people saying Don Lemon. Remember, Don Lemon is also in trouble as well. He has a lawsuit still, I believe it's still pending. This is still ongoing. In fact, most of that case is being hidden in the algorithms. You have to go deep in that. There's a lot of issues with that case. Will Don Lemon lose his job? Probably down the line. He'll be asked to leave. If not soon, I think would be when Discovery takes over completely. I believe that's going to happen. And it's going to be a lot of the other anchors on that show. I think this is going to be a wipe. I mean, this shows you that CNN has fallen greatly. It's just becoming dry. And understand this. When you look at the ratings of CNN, you're seeing that we're talking, they're averaging about the same views as a CW show. Around an average of 600,000. Their key demo, their 18 to 55, is at 200,000. Timcast IRL does a hell of a lot more than what CNN puts out. If you don't believe it, look at the numbers. look at how many people are viewing a Timcast IRL and even afterwards watching it. CNN has fallen greatly. Why? Because of the people that are involved in it, because of the choices that they've made. You've heard these situations for several years now. These people have literally taken the journalistic nature, as they say, the sanctity of what is journalism, what is the journalism job, the work, what people put through to bring you the news day in, day out. They've taken that, wrapped it in a tissue paper, wiped their butt with it, and threw it at you. Because these are the beliefs that they have. These are the beliefs that they put themselves into. Jeff Zucker should have never been put as CEO of CNN. That was the biggest mistake. You allowed yourself a person that just literally, like I said, reality show guy, coming off of NBC. You needed someone in there with a great knowledge of journalism, of a news integrity to that situation. Not to see, and this is what I've always said. When you hire someone, you cannot look at their color, you cannot look at their creed, their sexuality. You have to look at their experience, what they're going to bring to the table. What, if I'm hiring you, what are you going to bring to Q to Cast TV here at Madman Cafe? What would you bring to this? What experience? What know-how? I've gone through job interviews, which I knew I nailed the job interview, but guess what? I was basically skipped over because of my age, because of the amount that I wanted. And the thing is, I have the experience. I've had the experience. You know, I remember one time I took a job in a company that one of the guys that did the hiring said, "What does he want to be, my boss? This guy's got more experience than me." And the boss told me this. The boss told me this. He said, "Yeah." He says, "You almost didn't get hired for the job because you have too much experience." And you hear that, you know, where people say, "Well, you've had too much experience." What do you mean I had too much experience? I have too much experience for the job? You know, I've had people says, "Well, I can't offer you a job because basically I can't afford you." I've had this happen. I've missed out on promotions because they said I would cost too much. But I've had plenty. My own boss would say he'd be perfect for the job, very well experienced. This is the situation that goes on. We hire people that are just basically people spewing politics out when they're not supposed to. They have to be objective. If you're a journalist, you have to be objective with the stories you have that you put out. You have to be very objective. If you're in the news media, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, you know, you can have the opinionated shows. That's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we have, you know, like I said before earlier on, you know, we have to, you know, Joe Rogan. You know, you got to have both sides of the, you know, of the opinions. You can't stifle one side and call it misinformation. Misinformation is not misinformation. It's just literally you're stifling someone else's opinion. Misinformation is sitting there and saying that, you know, something just insanely crazy. That basically does not make any sense at all. When you have people who are expertise in the business and they say, this is what's going on. Do we take it from this person or do we take it from that person? We have to cut in between to understand both sides so we can come together and find out what is the truth. That's why in our judicial system, we have the plaintiff and the defendant. We have lawyers on both sides, and they bring those two things together so we can conclude to a jury or to a judge what is the truth. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But that's why we have both ends, to conduct ourselves to where we present both sides of the story. And that's the thing CNN hasn't been doing. They've been doing it more toward their online shows, online stories. If you go on CNN Business, CNN the regular stories, I think you see more of there are people that just they're writers that work online only. You see a better performance from them than, say, Brian Stelter and all the others that are on there that write stories, and they put it on there, and it's just pure garbage. If you disapprove of the president, that's your opinion. But if you're talking a story about it, you have to show both ends. That's the given nature. That's the job. That's the job that you're supposed to perform. Not to the stuff we've heard where it's been spewed by Zucker. See, here, this is the thing that you hear, that they say this person is a pedo, this person is a sexist and all that. But meanwhile, these are the guys that are doing it all. These are the guys that are guilty of it day in and day out. And they're just now getting caught on it. You know, the receipts are finally coming forward. And, you know, you have to laugh to this situation on here. And, you know, when you look into the whole CNN process that, you know, it's coming to an end. Yeah, CNN's coming down to an end. What's going to happen to it later on? Is it still going to be the CNN network? Not the same network that you knew before, and not the same network that was built many years ago in the beginning by Turner. This is not Turner CNN anymore. We lost that a long time ago. This CNN, this interpretation of CNN is the next to go.